Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we're diving into a legendary clash that spans generations of armored warfare, a face-off between history and evolution, steel and strategy, the T-34 versus the T-64. These two Soviet tanks were born in very different eras, designed for very different battlefields, yet both changed the way the world looks at armored combat. So buckle up, because this is not just a comparison of machines, it's a journey through time, doctrine, and battlefield philosophy. The story begins with the T-34, a tank that many historians still call one of the most influential tanks ever built. Introduced during World War II, the T-34 was a response to the harsh realities of total war. The Soviet Union needed a tank that could be produced quickly, survive brutal conditions, and fight effectively against German armor. The result was revolutionary for its time. Sloped armor gave it better protection without excessive weight, wide tracks allowed it to move through mud and snow, and a powerful gun made it a serious threat to enemy tanks. The T-34 was not perfect, but it was simple, rugged, and deadly in large numbers. Fast forward to the Cold War era, and we meet the T-64. This tank represents a completely different mindset. While the T-34 was about mass production and battlefield simplicity, the T-64 was about technological superiority. Introduced in the 1960s, the T-64 was one of the most advanced tanks of its time. It was designed to fight NATO tanks in a potential high-intensity nuclear battlefield. This was no longer about surviving winter mud alone, it was about fire control systems, composite armor, and high-velocity guns capable of destroying modern enemies at long ranges. When we compare armor, the contrast is dramatic. The T-34 relied on rolled homogeneous steel armor, cleverly angled to increase effective thickness. For its era, this was brilliant. Enemy shells often ricocheted, and the tank could survive hits that would destroy others. The T-64, on the other hand, introduced composite armor, a major leap forward. Instead of just thick steel, it used layered materials designed to defeat both kinetic and shape charge rounds. This made the T-64 far more resistant to modern anti-tank weapons than the T-34 could ever be. Firepower tells a similar story of evolution. Early versions of the T-34 were armed with a 76mm gun, later upgraded to the famous 85mm cannon, which proved highly effective against German tanks like the Panzer IV and even the Tiger under the right conditions. The T-64 came armed with a 125mm smoothbore gun, capable of firing armor-piercing rounds, high-explosive shells, and even anti-tank guided missiles in later variants. The difference in lethality is enormous. Where the T-34 fought at relatively short ranges with direct line-of-sight engagements, the T-64 could engage enemies farther away with greater accuracy. Mobility is another area where both tanks shine in their own eras. The T-34's diesel engine was reliable and efficient, giving it good speed and range for World War II standards. Its wide tracks made it famous for operating where other tanks got stuck. The T-64, while more complex, offered higher power-to-weight ratios and advanced suspension systems. It was faster, more agile, and better suited for rapid maneuvers on modern battlefields. However, this complexity also made it harder to maintain compared to the simpler T-34. Crew and ergonomics reveal how tank design priorities changed over time. The T-34 had a four-man crew, later reduced to improve efficiency, but conditions inside were cramped and exhausting. Visibility and communication were limited, and crews relied heavily on courage and experience. The T-64 introduced an autoloader, reducing the crew to 3. This lowered the tank's profile and increased its rate of fire, but it also introduced new risks and maintenance challenges. Crew comfort was still limited, but situational awareness and fire control were far superior to the T-34. On the battlefield, these tanks belonged to entirely different worlds. The T-34 was designed to overwhelm the enemy through numbers, resilience, and relentless advance. It became a symbol of Soviet resistance and victory in World War II. The T-64, however, was never meant to fight in such massive waves. It was designed as a high-tech spearhead, capable of defeating advanced Western tanks in a potential Cold War conflict. While the T-34 proved itself in total war, the T-64 represented deterrence and preparedness for a war that, thankfully, never fully erupted on a global scale. So who wins in a direct comparison? In a realistic scenario, the T-64 would completely outclass the T-34 in terms of firepower, protection, and technology. It would detect, engage, and destroy the T-34 long before the older tank could even get into effective range. But that's not really the point. The true comparison lies in impact. The T-34 changed the course of history and redefined tank warfare. The T-64 pushed technology forward and influenced future generations of main battle tanks. In the end, the T-34 stands as a legend of survival and mass production, while the T-64 stands as a symbol of technological ambition and Cold War innovation. Two tanks, two eras, one powerful legacy of armored warfare. If you enjoyed this deep dive into tank history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which tank do you think had the greater impact on history? Let us know, and we'll see you in the next video.